Natsuki is a brand new client for Minecraft Bedrock Edition 1.21.100. As you can see, I've already got it here. For you to get it, I'll put this in my Discord server in the Natsuki channel, link in the description below. I'll also just link it in the description if you guys prefer that, and I'll also link Natsuki's official server, which is the original place one could get this. If you try to download Natsuki Client, it might give you a virus detected error, just like this one, well, similar to this one right over here. This is a false flag. Natsuki Client is safe to use. Of course, if you don't feel safe using something, definitely don't, but I can confirm it is safe to use. To bypass this error, you want to create an exception inside of Windows Defender, so definitely don't turn Windows Defender off completely. I highly advise against that. If you need a tutorial for creating the exception, I will link it down in the description below. As I said, I've got Natsuki Client right over here, and now because this is just a DLL file, we do still actually need an injector to be able to inject this. I highly recommend Fate. I will link this in the description below too, probably the best injector. Anyways, we can simply select it just like this. Select, please. Random. Okay, we can just then click on inject right over here, and Natsuki Client is going to open up. You'll see here that a console opens up. This is because Natsuki is built on a developer. Well, this is kind of like a developer version, and developers can use this to debug the client. If you close this, the client will close as well, so you do need to keep it open. And anyways, just like that, we've got Natsuki Client right here. Here inside of Minecraft with Natsuki Client, and it looks pretty good to me. Anyways, to open up the Click GUI of this client, you can press on the Tab button on your keyboard. You'll notice a few things from other clients in Natsuki, but that... Whoa, like, am I like crip walking or whatever? Okay, interesting. So you'll notice a few things you'll recognize from other clients in Natsuki. However, it isn't a blatant skid, definitely not, and I'll explain more about that later. Anyways, as I said, you can press on the Tab key on your keyboard. That'll open up the Click GUI. This is the Click GUI from Apollo client. You might recognize that from many other clients that have been skidded off of this, except this area here looks a little more like Solstice. It also has notifications, which is something that mainly Solstice client had, not many Apollo clients. And so, really, it's a pretty neat client and definitely not a blatant skid. As I said, Tab key, I think I've said like 3 times now. You can click on these utilities to turn them on, click on them once again to turn them off, and you won't notice a description up on your arrow, but you will notice one in the bottom left hand side of your screen. It's a little hidden, but it is still useful to figure out what these utilities do. As I said, we got the notifications too here, which is neat. They got a nice little animation, which I like. We actually have a configs area over here, which, I mean, doesn't have a lot yet. In fact, it's kind of broken, but sure that it's going to be improved upon in the future. Natsuki is still in development. For right now, we can use .help in the chat and we'll get a list of commands. As you can see, the config command is one of those, and so you can just use the config command to load configs. As far as I know, this client doesn't support configs from other clients like Solstice or Apollo, so you'll have to make your own ones. About using configs with this client and using it in general, it's mainly made for Lifeboat. About using this client in general, it's mainly made for Lifeboat if you're going to use it on stuff like featured servers. As you can see in the disabler area over here, you've got your modes, which is CubeCraft, Lifeboat, Lifeboat Old, and the OMPH one. CubeCraft, I'm not sure how well that works, but I'm pretty sure that the Lifeboat one does definitely work quite well. And so in the Nuker, for example, we also have a Lucky Block mode specifically for Lifeboat Lucky Block, and the list goes on. There's a few more things you'll notice in here that focus on the Lifeboat server. For the rest though, if you're not going to use this on featured servers like Hive or CubeCraft, it's a pretty good client in general and definitely a solid option for 1.21.100. Anyways, for right now though, that was basically that for Natsuki Client. Thank you all ever so much for watching, and I do of course hope to see you again in the next one. Bye bye!